My dear friends, love is the most beautiful gift life can offer, yet it is also the most fragile. We dream of a partner who will cherish us, understand us, and walk beside us through every season of life. But without one essential element, even the strongest love can crumble, leaving your heart in pieces. Today, I wish to share with you 6 truths that will help you choose wisely so that your love story will be one of strength, not sorrow. When 2 people come together in love, it may feel as though the world is aligned in the most magical way, yet if they do not share the same fundamental values, this harmony will eventually face cracks that cannot be ignored. Because values are the compass that guides how you live, how you treat others, and how you navigate the challenges of life. And when these core beliefs are not aligned, it is as if one is travelling north while the other is determined to go south, both convinced they are heading in the right direction, but slowly drifting further apart. And it may not be obvious at first, because in the early days of romance, emotions often mask the deep differences that lie beneath the surface. The warmth of attraction and the excitement of new love can make it seem like nothing else matters. But as time passes, real life begins to show its face, with decisions to be made about money, family, lifestyle, faith, morals, and priorities. And if you do not see the world through a similar lens, every decision can become a battlefield where neither feels understood or truly supported. You might believe that love alone can overcome these gaps, that the passion you share will bridge every difference. But love without shared values is like building a home on sand, beautiful perhaps, but unable to withstand the storms that will inevitably come. And when the winds of hardship blow, you will find that without that foundation, trust erodes, frustration grows, and a subtle emotional distance creeps in, even in moments when everything seems fine on the surface. Deep within you will feel the quiet ache of not being on the same page. You may want to raise your children in a certain way, while your partner envisions something entirely different. You may believe in living simply, while they value luxury and material achievement. You may hold honesty as a non-negotiable truth, while they view bending the truth as harmless if it benefits them. And each of these differences, though small in isolation, become significant when they form the daily rhythm of your life. You will find yourself compromising not just on choices but on pieces of who you are, giving away fragments of your identity to keep the peace. And over time, this leaves you feeling unseen, unheard, and disconnected. Your heart will long for understanding, for someone who not only hears your words but shares your inner convictions. Because when you share values, you share a language of the soul, a way of moving through life that feels natural and effortless. There is a deep comfort in knowing your partner believes in the same truths you hold dear, that they will stand beside you not only in moments of joy, but also in the trials where choices define your character. Without this alignment, even acts of love can be misunderstood. Kindness might be mistaken for weakness, strength might be mistaken for coldness. And soon, every gesture begins to lose its meaning because it is not rooted in a shared moral ground. And when you are building a life with someone, every small choice is a brick, and those bricks need to be laid in the same pattern or the structure will tilt and collapse. Even the happiest moments can be overshadowed by the quiet knowledge that your dreams are not truly united. And the tragedy is that many only realize this when it is too late, when years have passed, and they look back to see how far they've wandered from the life they truly wanted. So if you wish to protect your heart, if you wish to safeguard the love you give so freely, you must look beyond charm, beyond appearance, beyond fleeting emotions, and ask yourself if the person beside you cherishes what you cherish, stands for what you stand for, and sees the world through a lens that brings your visions together rather than pulling them apart. For when values align, even storms can be weathered with grace, but when they do not, even the calmest days can feel like a quiet erosion of the bond you once believed was unbreakable. Emotional safety is the invisible thread that holds 2 hearts together. It is the feeling of being able to be your true self without fear of judgment, rejection, or ridicule. And without it, love becomes a fragile performance rather than a deep and genuine connection. When you are emotionally safe with someone, you can share your fears, your insecurities, your dreams, and even your mistakes, knowing that they will not be used against you, but will instead be received with compassion and understanding. But when that safety is absent, every word you speak is measured, every feeling you reveal is filtered, and every vulnerability becomes a potential weapon in the wrong hands. The relationship then becomes a place where you hide instead of open, where you protect yourself instead of trust, and this slow erosion of openness begins to suffocate love from the inside, because love cannot thrive where there is fear. You might still be together physically, but emotionally, you are living in separate worlds, A smile may hide your pain, laughter may mask your unease, but deep inside you will know that the person beside you is not a safe place to land, and over time this robs you of your voice, your self-worth and your joy. Emotional safety is built on trust, respect and empathy. It means your partner listens not to reply, but to truly understand. It means they do not belittle your feelings even when they do not share them. It means they protect your dignity, even in moments of disagreement. Without this foundation, you will begin to doubt not only the relationship, but also yourself. You will question whether your emotions are valid, whether you are too sensitive, whether you should simply remain silent to keep the peace. And every time you swallow your truth, a piece of you fades away. A relationship without emotional safety often becomes a quiet battlefield where conflicts are never resolved, where misunderstandings linger like shadows because neither feels safe enough to lay their hearts bare. In such an environment, love becomes conditional. Affection is given when you behave in ways that please them and withdrawn when you do not, leaving you feeling as though you're walking on eggshells, carefully managing your words and actions to avoid an invisible line you dare not cross. And the longer this continues, the more exhausting it becomes, until one day you may wake up and realize that you've been carrying the weight of pretending for far too long. True love is meant to be a refuge, a sanctuary where your spirit can rest, where you can be messy and imperfect and still be embraced, where your heart can breathe without fear. And when that is missing, it creates a loneliness far deeper than being alone. Because you are lonely in the presence of the very person who should make you feel most seen, you may find yourself craving moments of genuine connection only to be met with dismissiveness or cold indifference. And the pain of being emotionally unsafe is that it teaches you to distrust intimacy itself, to believe that closeness will only bring harm. And this belief can follow you into every other relationship you try to build, leaving scars that take years to heal. To feel safe with someone is to know that they will guard your heart as carefully as their own, that they will never use your vulnerabilities as ammunition in an argument, that they will speak to you with kindness even in frustration, that they will remain gentle with your soul even when life is hard. Without this sacred trust, love becomes a transaction rather than a union, an arrangement of convenience rather than a true meeting of souls. And no matter how beautiful the surface appears, the absence of emotional safety will eventually reveal itself in the silences, in the distance that grows between you, in the moments you stop trying to be understood, because you already know it will not happen. And the tragedy is that many endure such a relationship believing that love must always hurt, when in truth, real love heals, it soothes, it builds you up, instead of breaking you down. And when you are blessed with emotional safety, you are free to grow, to risk, to dream, because you know you are not alone in your journey. But when it is missing, your heart begins to live in a state of quiet defense, constantly scanning for danger, never able to fully relax into the arms of the one you love. And in that constant state of guardedness, love loses the very essence that makes it worth having in the first place. Mutual respect is the invisible crown that keeps love dignified and enduring. It is the understanding that your partner is not an extension of you, but a whole person with their own thoughts, feelings and boundaries. And when respect is present, love feels safe, valued and uplifting. Without it, even the most passionate romance will begin to rot from within, because love without respect becomes a power struggle, a competition to prove who is right, who is more important, or who deserves more. When you respect someone, you honor their voice. Even when you disagree, you consider their needs as much as your own. You never seek to diminish them to elevate yourself. And this balance creates an atmosphere where both can thrive. But when respect is absent, small moments of disregard begin to chip away at the foundation. Dismissive comments, sarcastic remarks, ignoring feelings, breaking promises. Each act may seem small in isolation, but together they create a climate of indifference and hurt. Respect is not only about how you treat someone in public, but even more so in private. It is about the tone you use when no one is watching, the patience you show when they are vulnerable, the consistency you offer when they rely on you. When respect fades, so does trust, because if your partner does not respect your time, your words, your boundaries, or your dreams, you begin to feel invisible, like a shadow in your own relationship. And soon love turns into endurance rather than joy. You find yourself making excuses for their behavior, telling yourself they do not mean it, that things will change. But every time respect is withheld, a small wound forms, and those wounds, left unattended, grow into resentment. Resentment is the quiet killer of love. It builds with every unkind word, every broken promise, every dismissal of what matters to you, and eventually it hardens your heart until you no longer feel the warmth you once did. Respect is also about equality. It is about recognizing that your partner's voice carries the same weight as yours, that their boundaries deserve the same protection you expect for your own. Without equality, one person dominates and the other adapts, slowly shrinking themselves to fit into the space they are allowed, and in doing so they lose parts of who they are. In a respectful love, there is no need to win at the other's expense. Disagreements are handled with grace rather than cruelty. Mistakes are met with understanding rather than humiliation. And victories are celebrated together rather than turned into competition. When you love someone without respecting them, you may find yourself using their vulnerabilities against them, dismissing their feelings because they inconvenience you, or demanding their sacrifice without offering your own. And these patterns, once formed, are difficult to undo. Respect is not built through grand gestures, but through the quiet consistency of everyday actions. Listening fully when they speak, keeping promises no matter how small, acknowledging their efforts, valuing their time, and showing appreciation without being asked. When two people hold mutual respect, they create a space where love can breathe without fear, where mistakes are forgiven without being used as ammunition, where growth is encouraged rather than stifled, and where both feel safe to be entirely themselves. The absence of respect often begins subtly. A little less consideration here, a little more impatience there, until one day the relationship feels cold and distant, filled with unspoken hurts and simmering frustrations. And the danger is that by the time you recognize the loss of respect, the bond may already be too weak to restore. Love needs respect in the same way a flower needs sunlight. Without it, it will wither, no matter how much water or care you try to give later. Respect turns love into partnership rather than possession, into choice rather than obligation, into a journey rather than a battle. And when it is there, you will feel it, not in words alone, but in the way you are consistently treated as someone of equal worth. And without it, you will slowly lose the joy, the trust, and the sense of belonging that make love a place you want to stay. Honest communication is the lifeline of any relationship because it is through open and truthful expression that two people truly understand each other. Without it, even the deepest love will become clouded by assumptions, misunderstandings, and silent resentments. When honesty is present, you do not have to guess what your partner is feeling or thinking because they share it with you directly and with sincerity. You're able to discuss your joys, your fears, your needs, and your disappointments without hiding behind half-truths or pretending everything is fine. But when honesty is absent, the relationship becomes a guessing game where one is left trying to read between the lines, interpreting silences and filling in the blanks with their own fears. And this leads to a dangerous cycle where miscommunication breeds mistrust and mistrust breeds distance. Some believe that withholding the truth will protect their partner from pain, but what it really does is create a false sense of safety that will eventually shatter. Because when the truth finally surfaces, it is often accompanied by the realization that the person you trusted has been hiding behind a facade. Honest communication is not only about speaking the truth, but also about listening without defensiveness. It means giving your partner space to express themselves fully, even when what they say is uncomfortable to hear. It means resisting the urge to twist their words or dismiss their feelings just because you disagree. And it also means being brave enough to voice your own feelings before they turn into bitterness. Without this kind of honesty, problems do not get solved. They get buried, and buried issues do not disappear. They grow heavier with time until they become too heavy to carry. You may find yourself avoiding certain topics because they always lead to conflict, yet avoidance only deepens the cracks in your connection. Honest communication requires vulnerability because it asks you to reveal your true self without the mask. It demands that you trust your partner with the raw parts of your heart. But it also builds the kind of intimacy that cannot be faked when you know that your partner will tell you the truth. Even when it is difficult, you can rest in the security that you are dealing with reality rather than illusion. In relationships where honesty is lacking, there is often a build-up of unspoken grievances, moments when one person feels hurt but chooses silence over confrontation, thinking it will keep the peace. Yet that peace is fragile and false, because beneath it frustration is silently brewing. Eventually this leads to emotional explosions or cold withdrawal, both of which damage the bond. Honesty also protects against the dangerous assumptions that arise when communication is unclear. Without it, you might believe your partner's silence means disinterest when in reality they are simply overwhelmed, or you might mistake their stress for anger towards you. And in the absence of clear expression, small misunderstandings can snowball into major conflicts. Honest communication is the light that clears away these shadows, allowing you to see each other clearly and respond with empathy rather than suspicion. It also sets healthy boundaries, because when you are honest about what you can and cannot accept, you give your partner the opportunity to respect those limits rather than cross them unknowingly. Some fear that too much honesty will create conflict, but the truth is that silence creates far more damage than difficult conversations ever will. The difference lies in how honesty is delivered. When it comes from a place of respect and care, it becomes a tool for growth rather than a weapon for harm. It is in those honest moments that you truly learn who your partner is, what they need, and how you can walk together more harmoniously. In the absence of honesty, you are left building a life on shaky ground, where promises may not mean what they seem, and where every reassurance leaves you wondering if it is the whole truth. Love cannot survive in such uncertainty for long, because love thrives in clarity, in knowing that what is spoken is real, and what is felt is shared. When two people commit to honest communication, they create a bond that can withstand disagreements, hardships, and changes, because they have built a habit of turning towards each other rather than away. And without that habit, even the smallest misunderstandings can slowly pull you apart, until the person you once felt closest to becomes a stranger you no longer know how to reach. When two people fall in love, it is easy to be swept up in the beauty of the present moment and believe that the warmth of their connection will be enough to carry them through any challenge. Yet without a shared life vision, even the strongest feelings can begin to unravel, because love is not only about how you feel today, but about how you choose to walk together into tomorrow. A shared vision means that your dreams, priorities, and long-term goals align in ways that allow you to grow side by side rather than in opposite directions. It is about wanting the same kind of future, not in every tiny detail, but in the core values and lifestyle choices that shape the years ahead. Without this unity, a relationship can slowly drift apart as each person pursues their own path and the distance between them widens. At first, these differences may seem small and harmless. Perhaps one dreams of living in a quiet countryside while the other longs for the energy of a bustling city. Perhaps one wants a large family while the other is content without children. Perhaps one values a life of travel and adventure, while the other dreams of stability and routine. Each of these visions is valid on its own, but when they do not overlap, they create constant tension and compromise that often leaves both feeling unfulfilled. The beauty of a shared life vision is that it acts as a compass during times of uncertainty. When life presents choices, you both know the direction you're moving toward. Without it, decisions become points of conflict rather than steps forward together. Over time, this lack of alignment can lead to resentment, as one or both partners feel they have sacrificed too much of what matters to them in order to stay together. And instead of feeling supported in their dreams, they feel limited or even trapped. A shared vision does not mean you must want all the same things in the same way, but it does mean you have a deep respect and commitment to each other's dreams and find ways to integrate them into a life that feels whole for both. Without that respect and integration, one person will inevitably feel sidelined while the other feels burdened by compromise. And this imbalance slowly erodes the joy and excitement that love once brought. Couples without a shared vision often find themselves revisiting the same disagreements over and over, unable to find lasting solutions because they are not actually aiming for the same destination. This can turn even small decisions into exhausting debates because there is no larger agreement guiding the way forward. In contrast, when you share a vision for your life together, you face challenges as a team, knowing that each step you take is moving you both toward a future you are equally invested in. And this shared investment creates a sense of unity and trust that no amount of fleeting passion can replace. It is not uncommon for people to ignore differences in vision at the beginning of a relationship because love feels strong enough to overcome anything. Yet, as the years pass, the pull of one's true desires and priorities becomes harder to silence. What once felt like minor disagreements can start to feel like deep incompatibilities. And the painful reality is that love alone cannot erase the longing for a life that feels authentic to who you are. Without a shared vision, love becomes a constant balancing act between you are. Without a shared vision, love becomes a constant balancing act between competing needs and desires. And eventually, the strain of that balancing act can take away the lightness and joy that makes a relationship worth cherishing. Building a shared life vision takes intentional conversations, honesty about what you truly want, and the courage to walk away if your visions are too far apart. It requires looking beyond the romance of the present to ask what kind of life you want to build together, what values will guide you, and how you will support each other in the pursuit of your dreams. When these answers align, the relationship becomes a partnership, not only in love, but in purpose, creating a bond that grows stronger over time rather than weaker, because you are not only loving each other as you are now, but also loving the future you are creating together. And without that future being shared, the love that once felt unshakable can quietly lose its way until you wake up one day and realize you are living side by side, yet moving in two completely different directions. Love is often mistaken for a feeling that once found will sustain itself naturally, but the truth is that without consistent effort, it will slowly lose its depth and warmth until what remains is only a memory of what once was. Effort is the daily choice to nurture the bond, to prioritize each other, even when life becomes busy, to notice the small needs and respond to them with care. It is in the small gestures that love either flourishes or fades, not just the grand declarations, but the quiet acts of showing up, listening, supporting, and choosing to be present. Relationships do not end overnight. They wither when attention is withdrawn piece by piece. When appreciation is replaced by assumption, when conversations become shorter and touch becomes less frequent, the early days of love are often filled with energy and excitement because both people are actively investing. But as time passes, some begin to take the relationship for granted, believing that love will remain simply because it is there. Yet love is like a garden. It cannot thrive without tending. Neglect invites distance, and distance invites doubt. When one or both partners stop putting in the effort, the connection begins to weaken. And often this happens quietly at first. One missed date, one unspoken thought, one moment where you choose distraction over presence. And these moments accumulate until they form a wall between you. Consistent effort is not about perfection, but about showing that the other person matters enough to you that you will keep trying, even when it is inconvenient. It means checking in on each other's emotional world. It means offering kindness, even on the days when you are tired. It means remembering the things that make them feel loved, and doing them not out of obligation, but out of choice. Without effort, misunderstandings go unresolved, conflicts linger, and affection begins to feel less certain. When someone feels they no longer have to try to keep your love, they may stop noticing your needs altogether, leaving you feeling unseen and unvalued. The most enduring relationships are not built by chance, but by the steady accumulation of moments where both choose each other again and again, even when it would be easier not to. And this choice must be mutual, because when the effort is one-sided, the imbalance creates hurt and resentment. When you are the only one trying, it begins to feel less like love and more like survival. Consistent effort also means being willing to grow together, to adapt to each other's changing needs, and to meet challenges as a united team rather than as opponents. Life will inevitably bring stress, hardship, and change, and to meet challenges as a united team rather than as opponents. Life will inevitably bring stress, hardship, and change, and during those times the temptation to withdraw is strong. Yet it is in those moments that effort matters most, because showing up when it is hard speaks louder than any promise made when it was easy. Effort is also about keeping the connection alive by creating new experiences together, by maintaining curiosity about each other even after years have passed, by refusing to let routine dull the joy of companionship. When you stop learning about each other, you risk believing you already know everything, and that belief breeds complacency. Love grows stagnant when it is not actively fed with attention, and the absence of effort sends an unspoken message that the relationship is no longer worth the energy. This erosion does not always happen with conflict. Sometimes it is simply the slow drift into emotional distance, the moments where you are physically present but emotionally elsewhere, where you live more like roommates than partners, where the bond remains in name but not in practice. To keep love alive requires the humility to recognize that no matter how long you have been together, your partner still needs to feel chosen, valued, and cared for. It requires resisting the trap of believing that comfort means you no longer need to try. The truth is that the most beautiful love stories are written not in the grand beginnings, but in the daily commitment to protect and nurture what you have built. And without that ongoing investment, the love that once felt limitless will eventually fade into something unrecognizable, not because it was never real, but because it was left unattended for too long until the distance between you could no longer be bridged.